This is The Locker Room, where the coaches of Husson University talk sports.
Hello everyone, I'm your host Alyssa Thurlow, and this is The Locker Room, the show that introduces you to the coaches and athletes of Husson University. On today's show, we are pleased to be joined by head coach of the softball team, Terren, and sophomore outfielder, Brianna Bires. First off, thank you both for coming on the show. First off, let's just give a little bit about yourself for those watching that may not know a lot about you. Coach, we'll start with you.
Okay, I'm Terren, obviously. I'm the head softball coach, and I played softball at the University of Maine. I actually coached for the University of Maine for a couple of years as a volunteer assistant, and then now I'm here. So.
All right, and Bri?
Yeah, I'm a sophomore. I play outfield. Really starting to get more playing time this year, so looking to improve. So.
Awesome. All right, so this year marks your second year here at Husson and your 8th season coaching overall. You've had a very successful team coming into the program. They won 6 NEC championships. So what is it like to coach a team that has been so successful in landing a championship season after season?
It's a really positive experience, I think. It's really exciting. Every day you come to practice and you're dealing with very talented kids. So it makes kind of my job easy, but at the same time there's also a lot of pressure to keep winning and, you know, to keep the tradition alive. I have the benefit of working with, 20 girls this year, all very talented and all can contribute to our success as a program. We're starting to build better this year, off to a little bit of a rough start, but we'll get there, and pretty positive for the rest of the season.
All right. And Bri, you're a junior this year, so what made you want to come to Husson, and did you always know you wanted to play at the collegiate level?
I'm a sophomore.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, I always knew. I played at Bucksport, and I always talked to my coach about it all 4 years of high school. I always wanted to play in college, and Husson was calling my name, so I came here.
And Coach, what kind of player is Bri, and what is she supposed to really bring to the field this season?
Bri's a very gritty player. I would have to say she's a definite gamer. She comes to the field, she's very intense, and she's a lefty batter, so she's what we like to call a triple threat. She can bunt, she can swing away, and then she can slap, and she's got a little bit of a speed, so on the bases she can be a threat too, so she's a triple threat.
And Bri, what's it like stepping on the field now versus when you played in high school?
It's a whole new experience. Playing with a bunch of girls that really want to be there is a big deal to me. We're a pretty tight-knit group, so it's pretty good, and we have some good leaders. Our seniors this year are really good leaders, and it's really nice playing with them, so it's a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And Coach, for some players it's a rough transition from high school to college, so how do you kind of help them make that transition?
A lot of it's mental. They come from their high school teams as one of the best people, and sometimes they come as a freshman in college and they're not one of the best anymore, and they have to reprove themselves, and they go through a building year, and some freshmen just step right in and play. So it's all a mental kind of stabilization, just keeping them positive and making sure they keep building their skills to improve and hopefully help us contribute later on in the years.
And this year you have one familiar face helping you coach, your dad.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like having him by your side and coaching?
Well, he's always been my coach going all the way up through. I mean, he was one of my coaches in high school. He followed me to the University of Maine after my freshman year. So he's always kind of been there, and it's definitely a big help, having a familiar face and always asking for his advice, kind of like a fatherly figure at the same time, but also a friend and an employee too. So it's awesome. Definitely has its positives and negatives. Sometimes we bicker a little bit about who should play and who shouldn't and different thought processes, but it's a lot of fun, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
And Bri, what's it like having both coaches, both Coach Halls, coaching you?
It's awesome. I've always known Coach Hall, her dad, and I've really gotten to know Terren now, and I love playing for both of them. They both have really good knowledge. They both know what they're talking about. Terren has so much experience, so and then sometimes she gets in practices and watching her hit is like so awesome. So I love it.
And this season you have another familiar face back. You have Kayla Merrill. She's a former player, and now she's a student assistant. So she was very successful here. She was 2015 NEC Player and Pitcher of the Year. So what's it like having her back in a different role?
I think it's very positive for our pitching staff. They can kind of pick her brain about what worked for her and what didn't, and the experiences that she went through, she can relate to a lot of the girls. Same as me, being a former college player. It gives, kind of an insight to some of the girls' thought processes and stuff when they're in game situations, and, even in practice, the work ethic that it needs to be one of the top players. So I think she gives a lot back to the program, and we also wanted to keep her back because I like having that, connection. You don't just walk away from the game when you're done. You always can come back and help out. So.
Absolutely. And Bree, what's it like having Kayla back in a different role as well, obviously being a former player to now coaching?
I actually really like having Kayla there. She's someone I can talk to. I like talking to her before I get up to bat. She's always positive. She knows what she's talking about, so our coaching staff is really, really good.
And obviously the program's been on a roll for the last few years. Last year the team was 28-13 overall and 10-2 in the conference. So what's it like, and what are some things that have played into the success for the girls every season?
I would definitely think the attitudes of the girls, they walk in with a desire to win and they want to win. This year we're off to a little bit of a struggle, but I think with conference starting tomorrow that it'll be right back to normal, and they're going to come out and they're going to want to win and they're going to want to hold their title. So.
And Bree, obviously you were a freshman last season, so you had some pressures kind of coming in. So what was it like to win a championship so early on in your college career?
It was definitely awesome. Coming from high school, we won a lot. I'm not really used to losing, and when I came in, I wasn't really used to losing, so I love coming into a winning program. It was just an awesome feeling, especially being a freshman.
Yeah, and obviously you both had that Bucksport tie. So what's that like, kind of, both being from Bucksport and being from a small town? Kind of what is it like back home for them to kind of watch you here?
I know people back home always ask me, hey, what's it like playing for Terren and coming both from Bucksport, and I don't really think about it that much, but people from back home love it, so it looks good for the town, I guess.
And Coach, obviously a big part of a team's success is the chemistry. So what has the chemistry been like so far this season?
I think it's been good. The girls relatively get along really well. With a group of 21 girls, it's, sometimes I struggle to get along, and, you're going to have ups and downs, but overall I think they're pretty positive. They all want to win and they all want to improve, so as long as we continue to do that, we should be fine.
Yeah. And Bree, what are some team building things that coaches had you do this season to get ready for conference play?
We've done just some fun things to kind of get us all laughing, having a good time. Each class came up with our own games that we did, and we did that for every Sunday for a couple weeks, and that really brought us together a lot, and those were pretty fun. So we just do fun things like that, and it helps.
Absolutely. All right, when we come back, we will recap the softball team spring break trip to Florida, and we will see what lies ahead for the Eagles this season. Stay tuned.
Right, mi cariño. So like I said, everything I learned about cooking, I learned from Grandma's empanadas. Shall we go again?
Yep.
Mix beef with the onions with the peppers with the paprika with the garlic with the oregano with the cumin. Got it?
Got it.
Throw in the olives, stir, season, stir again, pour out the flour, roll out the dough, make a circle, drop in a fistful of filling, fold over, press down, and ta-da!
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain.
So who's gonna do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice. And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
We couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Doesn't see race. Love is love.
Welcome back to the locker room. I'm your host, Alyssa Thurlow, and today we are pleased to be joined by head coach of the softball team, Terren and sophomore outfielder, Brianna Bires. All right, to start off your 2016 season, you guys always take your annual trip to Florida. This year you were 2-10 overall in the week, so obviously you play some really good competition while you're down there. What are some benefits of playing such high-quality teams?
The benefit is, they're better than our conference teams usually. So it's building us up for what's, potentially to come in regionals if we do end up winning conference. So I think if we didn't have those games, we would be at a shock if we were to move forward. And it also gets our girls playing at a higher level so that when we do come home, we're always consistently playing kind of above our conference a little bit. And I think it emotionally just keeps us in check and keeps us pushing hard. So.
And Bree, what is it like for you to play, some really good teams that are, out of state?
It was awesome. It's amazing to see the different levels. We stuck with most of the teams down there. I mean, our record doesn't show what we did in Florida, I don't think. I think we are building on it really well. But it was awesome to see some of the bigger teams and to be able to stick with some of them.
And I know you made a hype video for the team before you left. So what was the team's reaction to that, and what was it like to make that?
They loved it, and I had a really fun time making it and bringing it was kind of hard to bring my camera to practice and then try and practice at the same time and then put my camera down. But my team really, really loved it, so it was worth it.
Yeah. And Coach, obviously, over the course of the season, you guys travel a lot. Mm-hmm. So what kind of tolls can that take on a player, being on an airplane and long bus rides?
It can probably take an emotional toll. I mean, they just have to take it a day at a time. Time management skills are definitely key. And usually we try to establish that right when they get in there, their freshman year with study hall hours and just being responsible in general, making sure they rest and they get plenty of fluids and everything like that so that they continue to play and be sharp on all their skills.
And you mentioned before you guys are kind of a little bit in of a rut right now. So what is it like kind of motivating your players, and how do you really go about doing so?
We just try to keep them in check, and conference starts this weekend, so really everything that we've done or haven't done for the first half of the season doesn't really matter towards any of our goals that we still want to achieve. We're still in a position where we can win conference and we can still go to regionals and win that too. So our goals that are ahead of us aren't going to not be achieved because of what we've been doing the first half of the season. So just trying to keep everybody positive and still motivated to reach our goals. And not dwelling on the past and previous games.
Right. And unfortunately, Bree, obviously we only get 1 week for spring break,
yeah.
Right? And you mentioned it a little bit, but how do you think the trip went overall, and what are some other other activities that you guys got to do other than softball while you were down there?
Like I said, I don't think our record shows everything that we did in Florida, but it's a really good team bonding time. We have team dinners every couple nights at each house makes a team dinner. We have one day we can go with our parents or we stay with the team. We have a roommate, so you get close to the girl maybe you don't always talk to as much, so that's really good too. It's a really good time.
And Coach, what if anything has surprised you about the team this season?
That's a good question. I don't think anything's really surprised me. I don't think we've reached our full potential, so I'll be interested to see when that's going to happen and when we're going to break out of our shell and just, play like we can. So I think the good is still yet to come. So I'll leave it at that.
And you have a few seniors on your roster this year, one being obviously Captain Lindsay Merrill. She was already been honored by the North Atlantic Conference this year, and she was nominated for D3 Softball Hero of the Week. So how much of an asset is she to the team, and what are you hoping to see more from her this season?
She's definitely a big asset to the team. I mean, she's strong all around, offense and defense-wise. She makes some great plays. She hits the ball hard for a little girl, so I think that sparks a lot of our offense. They look up to her. She still needs to be more vocal on the field and kind of take this team where it needs to be instead of keeping us where we're at. But she'll get there. It's a learning process for her too. I don't think she's been on a team that's struggled like this, so it's going to be a challenge for her and also a challenge for Sammy, her co-captain, to kind of bring this team out of it and keep us moving forward.
And Bree, what's it like stepping out on the field every day with Lindsay?
I love Linz. She's always tried to stay positive no matter what. Like if you're down, she'll come up to you. She won't be mean to you or anything. She'll just say, pick it up. She does need to be more vocal, I think, but that's just Lynn's, but she knows. She's an awesome captain. She's always right on top of everything, where we have to be, what time we have to be there, always reminds us of everything. She's a really great person.
And unfortunately, obviously being, here in New England in the winter, we start the season early. Last weekend you guys tried to head into Massachusetts, and unfortunately the weather did not cooperate. So how do you adjust in those situations?
Just kind of take it a day at a time. I mean, with the weather, we could expect snow one day, it could be 60 the next day, so you just really never know. We just keep our field the best shape that we can, tarp it whenever we need to, and just take it a day at a time.
And obviously you mentioned tomorrow you guys are going to be opening up conference play versus Castleton, and what do you expect from them?
I expect them to be strong. I mean, they're one of the top teams in our conference. It'll be a good fight for us, and I think they're out to beat us just like every other team is this year. So we're going to have to bring our A game, and I'm sure they'll bring theirs to us too.
And Bree, what are some things that you've obviously played them before? So what are you expecting to see from them?
Probably some big hitters, pretty good pitcher, but I think we should mentally be there. I think we're all going to prepare. We're doing a team breakfast tomorrow morning, and so I think we all just need to be ready for it.
And how do you think you've kind of prepared for conference play this season? Obviously, you mentioned you've struggled a little bit, but how well do you guys think you guys are going to do tomorrow?
I think we'll be fine as long as everybody steps up and does their job and keeps a positive attitude throughout the game. I think as long as everybody's cheering and being loud like Husson is known for, we'll be fine, and nobody gets down on themselves. So.
All right. And obviously there's only about less than a month left of this season. And so, Coach, what are some things you expect from the girls going into the off-season?
Going into the off-season, I would expect them to stay in shape and keep their skills where they need to be. Obviously not going backwards with anything, and then coming into next fall ready to go for a brand new year, and whatever happens this year happens, and we're going to move forward and continue to have bigger and better goals for next year.
And Bree, what are some things that you do to kind of keep yourself in shape in the off-season?
I try and throw at least 3 times a week, and I try and hit, and also running is a big thing for me. I need to keep running multiple times a week. Work around my schedule. I need that. It needs to happen. So.
And obviously you guys have a big roster this year. You have 21 girls, many freshmen. So how do you go about recruiting, and how did you go about recruiting for this year as well?
This year was a little bit of a struggle because, with the interim tag I had last year, it was hard to get some of the best kids to come in, just saying, I might be your coach, I might not. I wasn't sure. So I think, going into next season, I do have some top recruits coming in, so I think it's a positive moving forward. But, you just go about, you pitch the program, you give them your coaching philosophy and your expectations, and I like to go after some good players. Maybe not necessarily the best talent-wise, but where I could see them contributing to our success. Yeah, that's kind of what I do.
And you mentioned pitching the program, so what do you actually say to a recruit to not only want them to come play softball here, but to just want to come to Husson as well?
We just, we build on our success. When you say you're 7-time defending champs, obviously that gets a recruit excited. They're part of a legacy through Husson Softball. So, that's obviously, a strong standpoint. And then, you kind of tell them, it's a big kind of family atmosphere. When you come to Husson and you play Husson Softball, it's better to be in the program than out of the program. And that's kind of, the big family push. Because a lot of our kids come from, Southern Maine, out of state, or even further, Calais, not necessarily the Bangor area. So sometimes they can be homesick. So we try to really push a family type atmosphere and, team unity.
And before we go, Bree, what are your overall goals for the season and for your next few years?
Well, this year I think we want to win NAC, but farther than that we want to win regionals. So we've been saying that all along. I think that should still be in all of our heads that, even though we've had a rough start, that is still the long-term goal, is to win regionals no matter what. So I think that's everybody's goals.
Yeah, we'll get there. And Terren, what about you? What are some overall goals, not only for you, but your players as well?
Definitely we're looking to win the conference championship every single year. I think that's always going to be a goal for Husson Softball. But, not just going to regionals, winning regionals, moving on to super regionals, getting the girls to kind of have that taste of what it feels like to be successful and to keep, maturing as a group and continuing to improve.
All right, well, thank you both for coming on the show today. We really appreciate it. When we come back, we will recap our Husson Athletes of the Week. Stay tuned.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Right, Mika.
Welcome back to the locker room. I'm your host, Alyssa Thurlow, and before the break, we were pleased to be joined by head coach of the softball team, Terren and sophomore outfielder Brianna Bires. We will now turn our attention to the Husson Athletes of the Week. We like to congratulate this week's Athletes of the Week, Sam Husson of the baseball team and Alyssa Fallon of the women's lacrosse team. Congratulations to both of them, and good luck to all the teams this week. That's all the time we have for this episode of the Locker Room. We would like to thank Coach Hall and Brianna Bires for coming on the show today. You can follow the Locker Room on Twitter at lockerroom_TV. If you'd like to watch this episode or any previous episode again, go to our NESCom journalism channel on YouTube. You can catch the next edition of the Locker Room on Friday, April 22nd. For everyone working hard behind the scenes, I'm Alyssa Thurlow, and have a great rest of your day.